Welcome back to Coremates. I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah,
Today we're talking about something so subtle, but so impactful. Those people in your life who just leave you feeling drained, exhausted, or like you've given more than you intended, even when they didn't mean to. Exactly. And the first thing I want to say is it's not about them being bad people. Often, they're navigating their own fears, past wounds, and patterns. But the way their energy lands on you, it matters. It shapes how you feel, sometimes in ways you don't even notice until hours later. And that's what we're unpacking today. Why some interactions drain us, why others leave us light and energized, and how to protect your own energy without cutting anyone out. It's a conversation about noticing, choosing, and creating boundaries that feel gentle but firm. Because your energy is yours, and keeping it intact doesn't make you selfish. It makes you human. So, let's start with the big question. Why do some people leave us feeling like we just ran a marathon, emotionally, mentally, even physically, when we didn't actually move at all?
yeah,
It's wild when you notice it. You sit down for coffee, or chat on Zoom, and by the end you feel.
wiped.
But the conversation wasn't heavy, at least not overtly. Exactly. And here's the first insight, it's not magic. There's actual science behind it. Your nervous system is constantly reading cues, tone of voice, body language, even micro-expressions. Some people's energy triggers your sympathetic nervous system, your fight, flight, freeze response, without you consciously noticing.
Right.
Like when someone is critical, anxious, or constantly worried, your brain picks up the signals as threat. Even if they aren't attacking you, your body reacts as if it needs to protect itself. Heart rate speeds up, muscles tighten, cortisol rises. And by the end, you feel exhausted. And it's not just people who are outwardly draining. Sometimes it's someone who's very needy or who constantly talks about themselves without checking in on you. Or someone whose mood swings unpredictably. Your brain, wired for social attunement, tries to match, stabilize, or soothe them, and that takes energy.
I felt that.
Like spending an hour with a friend who's in crisis, and by the time I leave, I feel heavy, even anxious, even though I wanted to be supportive. This is where neuroscience comes in, the mirror neuron system. Your brain literally mirrors others' emotional states. So if someone is stressed, anxious, or upset, your brain can experience their stress almost as your own. It's empathy, but it can feel like absorption. So, it's not that we're weak or overly sensitive. It's biology. Our brains evolved to connect, protect, and co-regulate. And sometimes that connection leaves us depleted. Yes. And here's the kicker, it's often patterned. If you grew up around people who were emotionally intense, critical, or inconsistent, your nervous system is hyper-aware, primed to respond to those cues. Even subtle triggers, a sigh, a glance, a shift in tone, can activate your system. Which explains why certain coworkers, friends, or even family members just drain us in ways that feel disproportionate. Exactly. And the good news is awareness is the first step. Once you understand why your energy dips, you can start noticing, pacing yourself, and practicing gentle boundaries without turning anyone away entirely. It's like putting on a little shield for your nervous system. Small, invisible, but powerful. Yes. And that's what we'll explore next, the subtle patterns that keep us drained and how to navigate them in everyday life. So, now that we understand why some people leave us drained, the question becomes, what do we do about it without building walls or walking away?
Yeah,
Because sometimes it's not possible or even desirable to cut people out. Family, coworkers, close friends. Some connections just need to stay, even if they're tricky. Exactly. So I started small, with micro practices. Things that protect my energy in the moment. Not dramatic, not confrontational, just subtle and grounded.
like what?
One of the simplest things is noticing your breath and posture. Before answering a request, or even stepping into a conversation, I check in. Is my chest tight? Are my shoulders tense? Is my jaw clenched? Just noticing it gives me a split second to choose how I respond, rather than reacting automatically. Oh yes, I do that too. Sometimes I subtly shift, uncross my arms, breathe slowly, soften my jaw, and it changes how I experience the interaction, even if nothing outwardly changes. Exactly. Another one is what I call phrases that create space. You don't need to say no outright. Just, let me think about that. I need a moment to check in with myself. I can't give this my full attention right now. I love that. Those phrases are tiny, but they communicate self-respect without shutting someone down. And it's funny. Most people actually respect the pause. Right. And here's another, partial engagement. Instead of saying yes to everything, I say yes to a part. I can help with this piece, but not the rest. I can join for an hour, but not all afternoon. It keeps connection alive without eroding my energy.
Yes.
And the body-based cues are just as important. I notice if I'm leaning forward too much, nodding too fast, or over-gesturing. Slowing down my movements, softening my tone, even subtly helps me not absorb someone else's tension. Exactly. And we can name what's happening internally, quietly, to ourselves. I feel my energy dipping. My chest is tightening. I need a second before responding. Even just silently noticing it helps prevent emotional overwhelm. And there's one that changed me, sitting with the guilt without reacting. Because sometimes, even with boundaries, we feel guilty. We hear that little voice. Maybe I'm being selfish. But sitting with it, letting it pass, keeps us anchored. Exactly. Guilt is often just the echo of old conditioning. Good people always put others first. Noticing it, letting it float by, doesn't harm the relationship. It protects your sense of self. So micro-practices, subtle phrases, body awareness, and sitting with your feelings. All of these quietly protect your energy without severing the connection. Yes. And the beautiful part? The more we practice, the more our nervous system learns that it's possible to be present and connected without losing ourselves in the process. And that's what we'll explore next. How to integrate these practices consistently so your energy isn't constantly drained and your relationships feel lighter and more alive. You know, sometimes the people who drain us aren't loud or obvious. It's not the ones who scream or demand. They're easier to spot. It's the subtle patterns, the small repeated behaviors that slowly chip away at your energy. Yes, like microaggressions, little comments, the just joking digs. Or even oversharing constantly so the emotional weight just lands on you without asking. Exactly. And there's a pattern I notice a lot, the chronic problem sharer. Someone who consistently turns every conversation toward their struggles, and you're expected to respond, advise, soothe. At first, it seems like empathy, but after a while, you feel mentally exhausted. Or the energy leech that plays the silent guilt card. You meet up, and suddenly you feel like you're responsible for their mood. Even if all they did was sigh a lot or glance at you with disappointment. It's subtle, but it drains you. Right. And here's where it gets tricky sometimes. We don't even notice it until we're burnt out. Because the drain is gradual. Tiny spikes of tension. Tiny pulls on your attention. Tiny emotional debts that never get repaid. And they often hide behind familiarity too. Family, old friends, partners. The closer someone is, the more we excuse or normalize their patterns. Oh, that's just how they are. It's fine, I'll handle it. Meanwhile, your energy quietly evaporates. Exactly. That's why early recognition is key. Notice these small feelings. A tightening in your chest before the conversation. A sudden sense of heaviness after a short chat. Feeling anxious or depleted, even without a reason.
So,
It's less about blaming them and more about tuning into your own body signals. Your nervous system is sending subtle warnings. Hey, this is too much. Yes. And the funny thing? Once you start noticing, patterns reveal themselves. Like the interrupter, who never lets you finish a sentence. Or the constant fixer, who turns every small idea into a crisis. Or the vague energy sponge, who leaves you drained, even without a word. And naming these patterns, even silently, is powerful. You don't have to call it out immediately. You just recognize it for what it is, and give yourself permission to adjust your energy. Exactly. Because once you can see the patterns early, The micro practices we talked about, pausing, partial engagement, noticing the body, soft boundaries, actually work. You're not waiting until exhaustion hits. You're intercepting the drain before it fully takes hold. And the beautiful part? It shifts your experience entirely. You start showing up with clarity and choice, instead of automatically giving away your energy. Yes, and that's exactly where we'll go next. Practical steps to protect yourself consistently, so your relationships feel alive but not draining. Okay, now that we've named the patterns that silently drain us, let's talk about what to actually do about it every day. Not a radical overhaul, just small, consistent practices that preserve your energy while keeping connections alive. Yes, like tiny gestures, tiny pauses that feel manageable, not scary. The kind that slowly train your nervous system to recognize, I have space. I can be present without disappearing. Exactly. So here's the first one, micro boundaries in conversation. It could be as simple as, I need a minute to think about that. I can listen right now, but I can't problem solve. Let's pause this topic and come back later. I used to feel so guilty saying that. But over time, I realized it's not rejection. It's self-respect. And interestingly, most people respect that honesty more than they respect over-availability. Yes. And second, notice your physical cues. The body often signals drain before the mind even realizes it. A tightening in the chest, jaw, or shoulders. A flutter in the stomach. When you catch it early, you can adjust, lean back, take a breath, or step outside for a moment. That one was life-changing for me. I started saying internally, okay, this is my signal. I need to protect my energy before I overcommit. It's subtle, but it changes the entire interaction. Third, partial engagement. You don't have to give 100% to every request or conversation. Try, I can do this piece, but not the rest. I have 15 minutes to talk, can we focus on the main point? I can help, but only in this way. I love that one. It taught my mind and body that I don't need to disappear to be kind or helpful. Connection isn't an all-or-nothing game. Fourth, mental rehearsal and anticipatory boundaries. Before you walk into a social situation, think, what's likely to drain me? Then, plan tiny protective actions, sitting at the edge of the group, bringing a note, practicing your phrases. It's like armor for your energy, soft, invisible, non-confrontational armor.
Yes.
And the fifth, guilt management. Guilt is inevitable. It'll whisper, you're selfish, you're being cold. But you can pause and ask, is this aligned with my values? Am I protecting myself in a way that respects both of us? Does this choice honor my limits? And lastly, regular energy resets. Tiny rituals that refill your cup. A quiet walk. Journaling. Making tea or coffee mindfully. Brief meditative breath work. Listening to music that lifts you. It's amazing how much these small, daily actions stack up. You don't feel like a martyr or drained by the end of the week. Instead, you feel alive, present, and grounded. Exactly. And remember, it's not about shutting people out. It's about showing up fully without giving yourself away. Once you practice these steps consistently, you notice something subtle but powerful. You have energy left for connection. And for yourself. That's the beauty of it. Protection doesn't equal separation. It equals clarity, choice, and a deeper sense of presence. And that brings us naturally to the next part. The quiet, beautiful aftermath of protecting your energy, how life softens when you stop being drained constantly. And then, there's this moment. You know the one I mean? When you realize you're not constantly drained. The constant tug, the heaviness, the little knot in your stomach when someone calls or texts. It's lighter. Almost gone. Yes. And it's subtle at first. You don't notice it immediately. It's like walking into a room and realizing the air feels easier to breathe. The energy that used to feel pulled in 1,000 directions is suddenly yours again. Exactly. And it's not about becoming distant from people, not at all. It's about returning to yourself while still being present. You can listen without overabsorbing. You can care without collapsing. You can show up fully without giving away your vitality. And the clarity is incredible. Decisions feel sharper. Conversations feel lighter. You notice who respects your space and who doesn't, without judgment, just awareness. It's like your nervous system finally remembers, oh, I can be at ease. Yes. And the grounding is almost physical. You feel your feet on the floor, your chest open. You feel whole again. And slowly, the small resentments you didn't even realize were sitting there, they start to dissolve. It's also about relationships shifting. Some people drift, not because you did anything wrong, but because the old energy exchange no longer fits. And the connections that were meant to be, they deepen. They feel real. They feel alive. Exactly. And here's the part one, love, your internal dialogue changes too. Instead of constantly apologizing, explaining, over-explaining, you notice a calm voice in your head. I can be present. I can care. And I don't have to lose myself in the process. And the relief. It's almost addictive in the best way. Because for the first time in a long time, you feel energy flowing back into your life instead of leaking out. It feels like arriving home to yourself. So if you've been listening, and you're starting to feel that little spark of relief already, remember, protecting your energy is a daily practice, not a one-time fix. And if this episode helped you start noticing your patterns, your pauses, your boundaries, make sure you subscribe so we can keep exploring this journey together. Because the more you practice, the more life softens around you. You start carrying yourself differently. You show up differently. And suddenly, the people who are meant to be close, they feel even closer. And that's the magic of it, subtle, quiet, profound. Protecting your energy doesn't push the world away. It pulls you fully into it, with clarity, presence, and a sense of home within yourself.